So once we have it all set up now we're ready to bring some files in. But not so fast. What I want you to do right now, this document, we will save it so we actually have it, but we will kind of put it aside for a second, okay? So we will save it. I know we didn't do that much to it. There's no image or anything. I promise you, you will have one. So go ahead and save it. File save, because you haven't saved it yet. The save as will come up. And this file, what we're going to do, we're going to leave it as PSD file, right? And go ahead and navigate to your Lab 6 folder that you renamed. So let me find mine. There I am. Save. So what I'm going to do at this time, I will just leave it alone, alright? Now, did Mike mention to you Mini Bridge? Only Bridge. Because you can launch Mini Bridge from Photoshop, okay? There is Bridge and there's Mini Bridge. Mini Bridge, if you don't see it here, you can go under File, browse in Mini Bridge. But let me tell you this. Don't click on it. Just hold on. Mini Bridge is just for really quick scrolling, finding images. The Bridge has more powerful capabilities. So if you really want to find a document quickly, Mini Bridge is fine. But for more, looking for files, putting numbers on the files, labeling your files, and so on, Bridge is the most used one. Right? So which one you have open, whatever. If you have already launched Bridge, navigate to Bridge. And if you have Mini Bridge open, you can go ahead and get Mini Bridge. You should have it in the bottom if you don't see it. So let me launch mine. So I'm going to just navigate to those files. It's better to do so. So let me wait for this to load. And I will go now to my Lab 6. Okay. So just like a mini version of your Bridge. And you will see, and we're going to discuss a few things about those files. So, first thing I want you to go ahead and you can open the Capel, okay? Capel JPEG. So you can just double click. It's nice about Bridge, it will link to Photoshop, it will link to Illustrator, and I think you can make a link to Lightroom as well. So go ahead and open it up. It's going to be a separate document. Oh, it's opening in CC. Look at that. Oh, I just love Photoshop. Different versions of Photoshop. No, that's not what I want. So you opening it in Bridge, I'm just going to move it. I'm going to move it into this Photoshop. And this will come up. And the reason why this message comes up is because I changed my color profile. Those images are from internet. Okay, I got copyright-free images, which, by the way, is a big deal with Photoshop, copyright-free images. So the assigned profile to those original images was sRGB, because it's web. So now you just have to click on OK. All right. Then that image opened. Now, one thing about this image, how big is this image, you think? Is that pretty big on the screen? It looks pretty big when you open it. On the screen is okay. It's not huge. Do you think it's going to print the same size as you see it? Like, let me measure my, what is it? 5.5, 5? Yes, by 4? I don't know. I'm just guesstimating. Do you think it's going to print that size? How do you know?
Because the resolution of the printer and the resolution of the monitor.
Right, because you need to check the resolution of what you see on the screen and what you're going to print it. Right, exactly. Resolution makes a difference. And also in Photoshop, you can see that the bottom part, like very bottom there, tells you the size you're viewing it. So if I'm viewing it as 100, this is 100% view. This is view. It's not size of the document. I had somebody, we did a test in one class when other people took Photoshop, and it's not you, because you learned that. We asked them to resize the image. Guess when they go? To view. View is just viewing the image. It's not resizing the image. So if I click, okay, go ahead and click 300. Just type 300 in the bottom. Right there in the bottom. Type 300. What happens to the image the bigger you go? And this is just viewing size. Looks pixelated, right? Like the bigger you go, and you can do Command plus, make it bigger. So notice, did make this cut with you pixels? Yeah, so it got worse and worse. But we need to determine how it's going to be suitable for us. And this is how you can determine if you bring an image that's copyright free from internet and you're putting it into your document, what is the biggest size it will print? And you're looking at two things. You're going to look at sizing the image, so size. We're going to be looking at the image resampling versus upsampling. That's the difference. So the next thing about Photoshop, next top menu, is the edit. We actually discussed that one because you use the color settings, right? But next to it is the image. Next to edit is image. And if you want to check the size of your image, is image size. Or Command Shift I, and I use that command often. Command Shift I. Okay? So here you see a few things. Now, at 300, because that's the profile we assigned, what does yours say? What's your resolution on yours? 300?
300.
What size can that print at? 2 by 1.4, right? So that's like kind of tiny. So you may think, why don't I just enlarge this and make it, bam, 6 by 4. Okay, that sounds awesome. Look what, did you see what happened to the pixels when you did that? Just to these? Notice the difference here, right? We went from 2.14 to 4. Now, I'm going to change the pixels to percentage. How many percent did we enlarge this? 180, almost 200%. So you think what happens? Photoshop has to make up those pixels. Those pixels don't exist. That is why the image will look pixelated. Because Photoshop is thinking, okay, we're just using one pixel, and then so guess what happens to the image? It looks like crap. There's a rule, there's a commandment I'm gonna give you. You shall not, shall, it's own language, enlarge raster images. Okay, a little bit is you can get away with, like a tiny bit, because it's gonna look pixelated. Remember that command. If I see you enlarging something, I'll be like, commandment, God is coming, come down here and burn you. I don't know, maybe not. But remember that important commandment. It's in the Bible, in Torah, in Quran, and anything that you read is there. Small print. Just need to find it. Okay. So anyway, I'm gonna leave that alone to 100%, back to normal. But all right. So you're thinking already. Now, what if happens if accidentally I put this image? So I can see too. What is the screen size image? And this is how you can tell what screen size will be. If you just change to 72, nothing happens to my width and height because I didn't resample it. So now this is how you can determine an image will be good at different resolution. You want to uncheck resample image. If you uncheck this, this is what it's going to do. It's going to leave your pixels alone. Okay, that's you viewing pixels. But it's going to tell you, unless you select pixels, like we have inches selected, what is the best resolution or size I can have this image at a given resolution. So if I do 200, you can see, okay, well maybe I can cheat and pretend 200 is like 300, and I can make that image 3 by 2. That makes sense? So that's, you can check. For web, it will be 8 by 5, but who cares what's for web? Web, you care about pixels, right? Because really you're looking at pixels for web. You're not looking at inches. But notice the difference on resolution. So you think this image is suitable for printing? It's too small, right? So that's, keep that in mind. Resample image, you have to uncheck it. Now, if I want to change it, let's say I want to make it smaller. I don't know why I'll make this image smaller, but I want to. You want to make sure check back resample image. So two things. When it comes to resampling, it's not resizing. When you resize something, you're changing the size that affects not only your pixel dimensions, your document size. When you resample, you're affecting the document size itself, its resolution. Make sense? Now you actually do scaling as well, which you probably know what it is when you scale something. And if you want to constrain proportions. So now if I want to change the size, let's say I want to do the height as 1, my resolution stays the same because I don't want to increase my resolution anymore. It's okay to go down. Okay? Notice what would happen if I uncheck it. I'm fine with 300. I don't need to have 400. So again, undo. Undo works here. So I'm like undoing. And so I'm going to change 1. Oh, he's so picky. And that's where I have my document. If you want to use an image and if you want to scale it down, there is such a thing as too much scaling. Okay? Upsampling image, making it bigger, is a bad thing. Resampling is okay unless you go really a lot more down. So if you're having an image that this is this screen size, I'm sorry, on the video you cannot see it. Let's see my screen size. And you want to resize it to be the size, let's say 1 by 1 inch. You actually are doing a really bad job to your image. So keep in mind that upsampling is most of the time not a good idea. Now a little bit is okay, but the same goes for downsampling. If you go too much down, if you're using a huge image, let's say it's 50 by 50 inches and you're going 1 by 1 inch. Because what you're doing is like you're pushing those pixels. Make sense? So, FYI. Okay, so we have that selected. We're going to do okay. So now we actually, did anything happen on the screen with this image? Was the screen affected? Do okay. And see what happens. Nothing happens. Because what we change is only the settings to know what we're going to do when we print it. The size stays the same, but we fixed it for printing. Okay. Now, if you go back to under image, you have another area called canvas size. Canvas size just affects the size of your artboard, and they call it in Photoshop canvas. So if I select, and what we're going to do, this is the width of our document. So what I want you to do now for practice, leave the width alone. I want you to make the height 1.5. And notice here right now, when we from the middle, it just tells me it's going to go up, down. So I want you to click the top arrow in the middle. So it kind of goes down like this. Right? Just do that for me. Do okay. Now, my background was black. What's your background?
White.
Whatever your background color will be. Right. So what you just did, you added more space to the image and you didn't increase the image itself, right? I will quickly, by the magic of Photoshop, change this to white. What black? Oh. Right. So what we're gonna do now, what we're gonna do is crop that image. So you learn a few tools at the same time. So those are just major things when it comes to adjusting your size and your canvas size, all right? Now, we can undo it, but what I want you to do is use different tools now. Toolbar, which you see in Illustrator, would be really your best friend. Some tools may look similar. They do not behave the same way in Photoshop. But crop tool, let's just select the crop tool for now. Don't you notice if I click and hold my mouse, I have different options for crop tool? I have the perspective crop tool. I have the slice tool. So crop tool is just allows you to crop your image. Perspective, you can add perspective to your image. It's good if you're fixing some buildings, especially if you take any images of buildings. Sometimes, I mean, it's true, they're going to come a little bit like this, right? They don't come in straight. So you need to fix them. And then the slice tools are really handy when you want to slice pieces of work for web. So just regular crop tool will do. And I know you just go ahead and use it. And then what I want you to do is already selecting the whole canvas. Go ahead and drag it so only the image is selected within the little box. Okay? Just tiny bit. So So that, and double click on the middle to make it crop. Everybody got that? We just cropped it. So now what we're gonna do is save the document, okay? And we're gonna use different saving techniques. This one we're gonna save as a TIFF. So let us go ahead and file save as. File save as and Command Shift S. Shortcut the same in Illustrator. Select from the format TIFF is TIFF. Like Mike said, TIFF is based on tags, and it will. Okay, you can have TIFF either compressed and uncompressed. It will preserve your layers. Uncompressed TIFF is pretty much the same size as Photoshop document. Photoshop is not a compressed file format, so it's big. But you can compress it. So go ahead and do save. Now this is what I want you to look at. So you may have it set to none. Now this, the compression, I compress my TIFF. There are 3 kinds of compression. LZW is really, those are letters from last names of people who developed it. And that is a compression that is not, it's not the most compressed file, but you really have very minimal or almost none loss of quality to the image. So that's the one I use by default. Zip is just compression. I don't think I ever used zip compression for TIFF. And then JPEG, honestly, JPEG is the worst quality compression. It's the worst compression is JPEG. I don't know why I would do a TIFF as a JPEG compression. It's like total. It's so bad. And then now in the lower part, pixel order, leave it as interleaved. That's fine. And you notice this byte order is IBM PC because Mac can read it and PCs can read it. So I don't even choose Macintosh. It's there, but I don't never do. And let us do OK on that one. So make sure you're in the right folder, okay? Alright, so you just saved your file as TIFF. And many times for the mini project and for your module 2, mini project I know for sure, you will have to save it as a TIFF. So this is suitable to send to a print shop file format, okay? Alright, for now we can say adios to the couple, so go ahead and close your file by clicking Command W. And we continue on with the next exercise.